Welcome to the Virtual Strategic Solutions Virtual Reality Simulation System. Accessing Legacy Dataset. Files loaded. Simulation ready. The 250-year-old Desmond Lockhart was a player in international intelligence at the highest levels before the bombs dropped. He became a ghoul before the war to attain immortality. His motives and obsessions have been scarcely affected by the apocalyptic devastation of the planet. He and those he would consider his peers knew for some time that the Great War was inevitable. Lockhart himself could have been directly involved in the actions leading up to the nuclear exchange. Facing the nuclear holocaust, global leaders and members of the intelligence community made their personal bids for survival in the new world. FEV, cryogenic stasis, AI consciousness transfer, genetic cloning, even in Lockhart's case, controlled exposure to normally lethal doses of radiation were among the wildly risky and experimental techniques pursued in the name of survival in a world without modern infrastructure. Old rivalries and personal vendettas were not forgotten in the ruins of society. Those who managed to survive quickly set about doing what the bombs had not, wiping out any remnants of the old world that may be a threat to personal and political agendas in what can be referred to as a great game. Now, even so long after they should all have died naturally, these scattered figures seek power and jealously guard their secrets. Desmond's mission has long since ceased to be political or ideological. He knew, as experience has proven tenfold, that as long as any of his colleagues lived, he would be hunted. His purpose is simple: kill or be killed. While this weathered Brit may be a bit rude and foul-mouthed, he did not live this long by making friends. Along with his two dogs, Frecky and Jerry, Lockhart has set his stronghold up within Point Lookout in Calvert Mansion. While a personal jab at the ego at his rival of over 200 years, Professor Calvert, Lockhart is also using the mansion as an information hub, pulling all the data on Calvert that he possibly can. Carrying out the will of the Transcendent One, the tribals native to the region led an assault on the mansion, attempting to take out the ghoul and appease their brainy deity. Although very competent, Lockhart also acknowledges the use of an ignorant tourist is to his advantage, and having them do his dirty work just might give him the upper hand he needs to overcome his old rival. Professor Calvert, once a brilliant government scientist, is now reduced to a power-mad brain in a jar. He retains his brilliance, but hundreds of years in isolation have left him a maddened, scheming figure, constructing elaborate plans to dominate the rest of the world. Now that he has a way of contacting people outside of his lab, he intends to follow through on his plans, especially if he can include revenge on Desmond, the agent responsible for his lack of a living body. Professor Calvert was a member of the prestigious and influential Calvert family before the Great War, and an accredited expert in the field of cognitive robotics. He survived the war by extracting his brain from his body and preserving it in the underground lab using experimental robo-brain technologies. This technology has allowed him to survive for over 200 years and develop the ability to telepathically communicate with other people over long range. His ultimate goal is to use his powers to achieve psychic domination over the Maryland area. Standing in the way of this goal is Desmond Lockhart, who was the one responsible for Calvert's lack of a body. The battle of the two rivals continues as the professor becomes a god to a local tribal cult. Despite the cult's usefulness as living agents and tools, the professor is frequently frustrated by their misinterpretation of his orders as religious instruction. After the tribals fail to kill Desmond and destroy the psychic jamming device, he learns, by contacting the mind of the lone wanderer, that the jamming device is ready to be installed on the top of the Ferris wheel to completely block his powers. Calvert then asks the lone wanderer to destroy the device rather than install it. Once the Duchess Gambit has docked at Riverboat Landing, which is located to the east of Arlington Library in southern downtown DC. Arriving at the dock and speaking to a woman named Catherine about her missing daughter Nadine will start the Tailing the Tomboy quest if accepted. To travel to Point Lookout, speak with Tow Bar and buy a riverboat ticket. After acquiring a ticket, enter the room near the back of the boat and activate the cot to begin the journey. Once reaching Point Lookout, follow the quest marker to Calvert Mansion and go inside. Upon entering, a ghoul in a white business suit and 2 dogs will be fighting several tribals. Kill the tribals, then speak to Desmond. Follow Desmond to the bathrooms and kill the tribals in the area. In the next area, the player character will only go several steps before falling 2 stories to the basement floor. The floors break the fall slightly on the way down, causing only minimal or no damage. As with the other side, look for a red pressure vessel on the opposite side of an inoperable door and blow it up to seal off the entrance. After closing up the final breach, follow Desmond back to the main room. Once returning to the main entrance, Desmond will speak of an imminent attack and advises to lay a few mines which can be found in an ammo box behind Desmond's upstairs barricade. When placing the mines, keep in mind that the tribals will enter from a multitude of directions, not just the front door. The tribals enter in waves of 3, 5 from, in order, the upper right, lower left, and center doorways. After fending off the last of the tribals, speak to Desmond, to be rewarded with the Superior Defender perk. After defeating the tribals, the Lone Wanderer speaks to Desmond. He then offers some tips for making a dramatic final stand. He then tasks the Lone Wanderer with infiltrating the tribals. Upon arrival, the Lone Wanderer speaks to a tribal on the intercom located by the exterior gate of the cathedral. The tribal sends to Lone Wanderer to the sacred bog in order to retrieve the seeds of the mother punga fruit. Inside the bog, many mirelurks, and possibly swamp lurks depending on character level, appear. At the final grove, the mother punga and its purple seeds will be ready for the taking. Once the mother punga is activated, it will no longer be possible to pick anything up until the punga effects wear off. Taking the seeds of the plant causes an incapacitating gas to spray out from the fruit. The Lone Wanderer then awakens to a psychedelic hallucination. Since the mother punga is found at a dead end, the only option is for the player to go back the way they came. On the way back, giant bobbleheads called Schmaltech bobbleheads, fake versions of Vault-Tec bobbleheads, appear, none of which can actually be added to the player character's inventory. Cryptic messages are written on them, ranging from expressing the character's inner doubts and fears to making fun of their misfortunes. The hallucinations encompass the Lone Wanderer's experiences in a cryptic fashion, such as Nuka-Cola Quantum from the Nuka-Cola Challenge or a megaton bomb from the power of the atom. The first hallucination is a large red translucent bone saw, which appears to be randomly sawing into the ground. Next will be Nuka-Cola Quantums that make baby sounds when they explode. After this, there will be dolls on poles that appear to be waving, or perhaps pointing the way ahead. There will also be silver needles sewing stitches into the ground. A violin plays in the background, near any of the several trees that have grown into the shape of the instrument. Ghost ghouls will attack, which won't cause damage, and which may or may not even be visible. Journeying through an upside-down swamp leads to Catherine's skeleton, labeled Mum, upon an operating table surrounded by party balloons, displaying the cruel point that it was giving birth that caused her death. Further on, there are several dead bodies of various people from the capital wasteland that disintegrate when searched, including Lucas Sims, floating inside the rocks between and to the left of Amata and the settler. Moira Brown, Amata, Elder Lyons, and an unnamed settler. When interacted with, they disappear. They can, however, be picked up and moved around. Last up is a larger version of the megaton bomb, with a character similar to Mr. Burke named Mr. Break standing in front of it. On the horizon, the Washington Monument looms over the bog. Mr. Break then speaks in Tobar's voice, saying, "Congratulations, my boy," or my dear, for a female character. "You are going to pull through, and everything will be right as rain." When spoken to, he will say, No, don't try to get up yet. You'll only hurt yourself." The bomb then explodes. At this point, it will be possible to enter the Ark and Dove Cathedral. After gaining entry to the Ark and Dove Cathedral, locate Nadine and speak with her to learn that she has apparently joined the tribals in order to procure their punga, in failing to achieve her original goal of discovering treasure in Point Lookout. Questioning her will reveal that the tribal leader Jackson is hiding out at his sacred praying grounds accessible via the sea cave, and she will hand over the key for it. Upon further conversation with Nadine, she will remove the player character's scar and ask that she be met at the pier later, stating she has a hunch as to who removed a portion of your brain. After speaking with Nadine and getting the key to unlock Jackson's sacred praying grounds, return to Desmond and tell him the news. Of course, Desmond chastises the player character for not interrogating the tribal's leader first. Leave the mansion for the wrecked sea tub and enter the caverns that hold the leader of the tribals, as well as his means of communication with Calvert. To find Jackson, follow the torches to his inner sanctum. There are mirelurks in the cave that will have to be dealt with or sneaked past. Upon entering the final room, Jackson can be seen kneeling before a table, speaking to what appears to be a holographic talking brain. Let Jackson and the brain finish, then speak with the brain. It does not reveal who it might be straight away, but explains that it is using the local tribal cult as means to destroy a signal jamming device that Desmond is using to restrict the brain's broadcasting signal. The brain is rather disappointed that the tribals take its instructions to mean destroying the mansion itself instead of the jamming device. Shooting Jackson in the back while he's still conversing with the brain causes it to react with surprise, then with satisfaction at your to-the-point method of doing things. In any event, the brain will tell the player character to locate Desmond's jamming device and find a way to destroy it, so the brain can expand the range of its psychic influence beyond the sea cave. This starts the thought control quest. Desmond Lockhart reveals the brain to be Professor Calvert, a brilliant pre-war scientist and the last remaining member of the Calvert family. Desmond has a long history of tampering with the Calvert family, going as far as staging a scandal between a presidential nominee and a dog. He then instructs the lone wanderer to plant a cogwave jammer on the Wheel of Wonder that will disrupt the messages that Calvert has been trying to send throughout the Point Lookout area. When approaching the Wheel of Wonder, Calvert's voice will try to persuade the lone wanderer to side with him instead and destroy Desmond's device. Upon reaching the Wheel of Wonder, two options become open, but either choice will not greatly affect the main storyline or change the player character's karma. Install the cogwave jammer on the Ferris wheel. Calvert's signal is disrupted, and a group of tribals will attack from the roofs and at street level. Once all of the attacking tribals are dead, the lone wanderer can return to the mansion. This route will cause all the unnamed tribals at Ark and Dove Cathedral to become hostile. The named tribals will not be hostile unless they witness the lone wanderer attacking any unnamed tribals. Nadine will remain friendly. Tribals will also become hostile to the nearby merchant, Madame Panada, and her robot from the House of Wares. The robot may not be able to be saved, but if the player character immediately rushes to Panada's aid, then her life and merchant services can be preserved. Follow Calvert's instruction to place the cogwave jammer in a nearby trash compactor to destroy it. Calvert will then instruct the lone wanderer to return to the mansion. Regardless of which path is taken, return to Calvert Mansion. Upon approaching the mansion, it will be destroyed in a huge explosion that knocks the lone wanderer over. Report back to Desmond in the Calvert Mansion with the information you obtained from Jackson and the brain while in the cave. After watching the Calvert Mansion explode, the panic room can be entered through a hatch in the ruins. There is some minor loot, including ammunition and food, such as a Nuka-Cola Quantum and 2 very rare gumdrops. This mission begins slightly differently, depending on who was sided with in thought control, either Desmond Lockhart or Professor Calvert. In either case, go to the Point Lookout lighthouse, where a section of the floor slides away. The final showdown takes place in St. Aubin Medical Facility, a secret underground lab. Desmond has tracked down Calvert's signal to the lighthouse in the underground lab and is ready to end the 200-year-old feud. Note, this route makes Desmond essential until the final choice. The player character destroyed the cogwave jammer and sided with Calvert. Travel to the lighthouse. Desmond is not inside the panic room, but has already made his way to the underground lab in the lighthouse. Desmond will confront the player character about destroying his jammer. Through dialogue, he can be told that you were tired of him being rude, or it was a trick to gain Calvert's trust, or decide to kill Desmond at this point. If Desmond is not killed yet, he will assist in fighting the robots, and the player will be able to make the final choice later on. Once inside the lab, begin making the way down with Desmond. fighting turrets and several robo-brains along the way. Desmond can be allowed to run ahead and engage first. If hit enough, he will become unconscious but will not die. If one has the robotics expert perk, then it is possible to deactivate the robo-brains while they are distracted by Desmond. Continue forward to eventually reach Calvert's room, where the brain himself resides in a massive glass tank surrounded by inactive protectrons and several apparently non-functioning protectrons. If Desmond was not killed earlier, it is now time for the final choice. Desmond and Calvert will have a short, angry conversation, each of them claiming to have the Lone Wanderer's support. Waiting too long will cause the dialogue to loop. Eventually, a decision will have to be made of which one to kill. If spoken to, Calvert will offer the greatest thing any human could ever hope for, in exchange for killing Desmond. If siding with Desmond, shoot at the brain's glass tank until the glass shatters or attack one of the docile protectrons. Desmond becomes temporarily essential until Calvert is completely dead. After the brain is dead, any remaining robots will be disabled and Desmond can be spoken to. He will be overjoyed to have finally won and remarks that everything that Calvert stole from him is finally all his, although he's still a bit rude. Desmond gives the player character the exit key. After speaking to Desmond again, he will say that after he's done in the lab, he will go north to confront another one of the players. He refers to this contest as a microcosm of the old world. The option of killing Desmond is present but not mandatory. If taking Calvert's side, simply shoot at Desmond or place a grenade in his pocket. Calvert becomes temporarily essential until Desmond is completely dead. Once Desmond is dead, the professor will offer his reward as the greatest thing any human could ever hope for: death. At least he'll try, at which point he will activate some of the previously inactive protectrons, forcing the player character to destroy Calvert as well. In the sealed room there are 2 ammunition boxes, a safe, 2 first aid boxes, some energy weapon ammunition, some additional items, and of course the microwave emitter. There is also a ladder leading outside. The microwave emitter uses the same in-game model as the mesmetron. However, unlike the relatively rare mesmetron power cells made by Implied Hypnotics, which are intended as non-lethal and to merely daze and confuse a target, the microwave emitter is modified to use the much more common military microfusion cells, which are used by standard lethal force energy weapons. Therefore, the emitter is intended as a lethal version of the mesmetron, which burns, sets on fire, explode, or disintegrates a target with blasts of intense and concentrated microwave radiation. Limb shots may cause gibbing even without the bloody mess perk, and headshots will cause heads to explode. Fatal critical hits will not turn enemies into piles of goo, as with plasma weapons, but will turn enemies into piles of ash, like with laser weapons. The microwave emitter ignores damage resistance, which, coupled with its rather large damage, makes it ideal for use against heavily armored foes. Simulation completed. Please exit the pod, or have a technician select another file.